Okay, in this exercise we're going to try making a scene in which a vehicle looks like it's moving. If you take a look closely at the scene shown here, the vehicle is not moving, but the background is and the wheels are. In order to get started here, we're going to need to use Adobe Photoshop and bring in a photo or a clip art of a vehicle, and then we're going to get rid of the background and save the image as a GIF file. GIF files are different in that they do not save a background. If you save it as a JPEG, then the background, when you insert the image into Flash, will still have a white background to it. Okay, so let's get started with Photoshop. You will open up Photoshop, and in the Assignments folder, there is this clip art of a car. Drag it into Photoshop. You can also find a different type of vehicle if you'd like for when you do your actual animation. First, the thing that we want to do is to have just the car as an image. Then we'll also want to have just a wheel. We don't want the puddle and we don't want the white background. So, to begin with, what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase the puddle. I can change the size of the eraser by changing the size of the brush here. We go ahead and we get rid of the entire puddle. You can be as accurate as you want. Since this is just a practice exercise, I'm not going to be overly accurate. And that's good enough for getting rid of the puddle. The next thing we're going to want to do is to get rid of the background. So to get rid of the background, what we're going to do is use the magic wand. I click on the magic wand over on the left-hand side here, and then I click on the white part of the image. Notice that it's only selected this corner, all of the white in that corner. I'm going to hold the Shift key and click down in this area, and notice that it's selected the white there as well. Now if I select over here, and later I want it to seem as if we can see through the vehicle, so I'm going to get rid of this bluish white area here, this, and this as well. Now what we can do is we're going to go to Select, Inverse, so that we're now actually selecting the vehicle, and we're going to create we're going to then put the cursor in where the vehicle is, right-click with the mouse, and say Layer via Copy. Now notice that there is a layer with the vehicle on it. Notice too that it has no background. So this layer, background, we don't need anymore. So I'm going to drag it to the trash bin. Okay? Now what we need to do is to get rid of the wheel. So we're going to erase that out as well. Actually, an easier way to do this is to use your magic wand and select on the areas. If I hold Shift key again, I can select multiple areas. And now I can do right click and go up to Edit and do Cut. And now those are gone. Now just look always for any leftover bits, and so we can use the eraser to get rid of those last bits in there. Okay, and now we have the vehicle, the person, and no background, and also no wheels. Oh, there's a little piece stuck in there, you can see, because we don't see the checkerboard, so we just get rid of that as well. Just double check that there's nothing left that we don't want to have. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to save this file. What's important here is to save it as a GIF file. So we're going to go to File, Save As, and we're going to put it somewhere where we'll be able to make use of it. So I'm going to put it on my Documents, and then we need to save it as a GIF file, so it's CompuServe GIF. So this is very important. If you save it as a JPEG, then when you bring it back into Flash, it will still have the white background. So now we'll give it a name, I'm going to call this car without wheels. And down here where it says save options, we don't want to use this include in the organizer. So get rid of that check mark. And then we can say save. We're going to accept everything here, so we can say OK. Row order is fine as normal, say OK. And we now have that GIF file saved. Now what we'll do is we'll go to Flash. Actually, what you should do before going to Flash is do the exact same procedure again, and this time erase everything except for the one wheel. So you will erase the car, the background, and the one wheel. Save it as a GIF file and call it wheel. All right, I'll let you do that on your own. The next thing to do is to go to Photoshop, or go to Flash. So, starting with a new file, we're going to File, Save As, and we'll save this one wherever it makes sense on your computer to save it. And we'll call this one Vehicle Moving. You can call yours something else later. Okay, and we'll save that. Alright, now we've got to bring in that Flash folder. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my documents just in Explorer, and I'm going to go and find the file. I think we called it Car Without Wheels. There it is. Okay. I'm going to minimize this and bring it back over. Make it so that I can see Car Without Wheels. And now what I can do is drag this straight into the stage. It may take a few seconds or a few more, and then it'll be there. I'm going to close my documents. You may want to just minimize it for now. The next thing you'll need to do now is to change the size of the stage. So if we go to Modify, Document, right now it's set at 550 by 400. Let's make it, let's double it, 1100 by 800. And then say OK. Now if we zoom on the whole thing, show frame, we'll see that the vehicle is quite a bit smaller, and that's what we want. Now what we want to do is to move the vehicle, so I'm going to click on the selection tool and move it into a good location here. Next thing we'll need to do is to bring in the wheel file, and you can do the exact same thing. You're going to open up your My Documents and select the wheel file. Okay, so I'm going to go find mine. I already had one on the desktop, so I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to go down to wheel. Alright, so there's my wheel GIF. Actually, before we bring it in, what we should do is to make a new layer. So I'm just going to click back to here. I'm going to name this layer. I double-clicked on the layer name and call it Car. Then I'm going to make a new layer. So I'm going to click out of there to accept that name, and then click on the new layer button, and I'm going to call this one Wheel. And then I'm going to click away from it to accept the name. I'm going to keep the wheel layer as the active layer, so make sure it's blue. Then I go back to my Explorer window where I've got the file, and I'm going to drag my wheel onto the stage. Okay, and then I can get rid of that one as well. Alright, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to position it so that the wheel looks like it's in the right location. And if you need to, you can zoom in so that you can be a little bit more accurate. Once you zoom, then go back to the selection window in order to be able to move this one. be as accurate as you want to be. I'm not doing so well here. Okay, and that's close enough for what I'm looking for because it's going to turn anyways. So the next thing I want to do is to zoom back out. So I'm just going to go to show frame. And so again, I can change here. What I want to do now is I want to convert the wheel to a symbol. So I have the wheel selected here. And actually before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to transform it. So I'm going to go to free transform. And I'm going to move the rotation origin. So if I was to rotate this wheel right now, it would rotate about this dot here. And so it would go around that origin. What I want to do is I want to move that origin to the center of the tire. So I just drag that origin button or dot down into the center of the tire. Again, you may need to zoom in. So I click on zoom, zoom in, and now I can go back to transform, and I can drag that one right into the middle there. And just get it as close to the middle as you can. I'm going to go back and zoom out. And now that's in the right location. Okay? Next thing we're going to do then is to change this into a symbol. So I can click on the selection button, click on the wheel, right click, and say convert to symbol. I'm going to call it wheel. And make sure that it's a graphic, not a movie clip. Oops, I spelled it wrong. And then say OK. Notice that wheel shows up now as a graphic. There's also the wheel GIF, which was the original image that I brought in, and the car GIF. But what we're going to work with is the wheel symbol. Okay. So what we need to do now is we want to make it so that the wheel moves. So we're going to, just like when you did the Running Man, we're going to double click on the wheel itself and notice that we've got a change in scene here. Now what we can do is to transform this wheel and give it a motion tween. Okay, so up here in the layer, I'm just going to leave that as layer 1 in here, and I want the wheel to spin fairly quickly, so I'm going to use 5 frame, the 5th frame as my keyframe. You can choose what you want. You might want to do 10 or 20. It really doesn't matter, and you can always change it later. So I'm going to click here on the 5th frame, right click, and go to insert keyframe. Okay? So now I've got the exact same image. What I need to do now is to click on transform, and I need to rotate the wheel. So I'm going to rotate it around, and I'm going to take it to the point where it looks like the wheel is upside down.